What sets higher skilled players apart is their ability to react quickly when things get hectic. Today, I want to show you exactly how to stop losing gunfights in Warzone by making smarter decisions. This goes way beyond aim and movement, so I'm really going to break down some of these. I want to show you how I have built habitual positioning and gun skill techniques that make outplaying enemies so much easier. In this scenario here, I'm solo pushing my bounty. Through footstep audio, he has at least 2 with him. So rather than push this fight, I fall back, go towards the door, pull them down the hallway, and I go across the room to set up this stacked gunfight. I pre-aim the door, I drop the first target, and this is where players lose the plot. You have to refocus your energy on that choke point. This is the only advantage that I have in this fight, is I know exactly where they are coming from, and the 2 remaining enemies do not have that much information. And I need ammo, but there's no time to do that. So I'm going to hot swap and change my position while sliding. And that is what makes it extremely hard for the enemy to hit. Is I've lowered my profile, I've changed my position, and I am now fully kitted to engage this gunfight. While I'm tracking, I see the 3rd enemy, along with the fact that this is early in the game, and this guy is still down and might have a self. So timing is of the essence in this gunfight, and you have to be able to prioritize eyeballs, and you need to make adjustments to get those eyeballs off of you. So we switch off of the first target after the knock and then drop the 3rd. Now we need to go check on our buddy outside the bowling alley. I've reloaded on the way, thirsted 1, 2, and then 3. On the regain, I see them coming back to their loadout back at the buy station. I'm going to push them while they're on the regain because that gives me an advantage. Able to drop the first enemy. I'm going to rotate around the outside. I am plating on the go, listening to the surface sounds, and then chowing out. Knocking fly-ins is a very important part about getting your Resurgence ping, but you have to be careful that when they drop right on the roof with all their teammates, whenever I zip to the top of a building, I am ready to back off the top because I have no idea how many are up there. I want the pings for the rest of his team. I'm not going to over-push that gunfight just to get knocked and lose my down. Same thing here. I see a hallway filled with madness. They've got equipment up and they are holding down this building. So we've already visited the roof, we visited the mid-level. I'm gonna hold downstairs and listen for information. They're gonna go check the far right side. There's 3 on the roof. Take out the first one, retreat to the downstairs, reset my gunfight, and then revisit it. You can drop high kill games by playing much more patient than you are. In fact, it's the hyper-aggressive playstyle that gets you killed more often. So if you want to turn stupid pushes into high kill games, I highly recommend you subscribe to the channel. Now over on Rebirth, we're at Control Station and we do not have zone. In fact, we are being held by 2 teams above us on the steps towards prison. Getting out of holds is one of the more difficult things in the game, but you have to realize that your positioning is once again the biggest asset that you have. We don't want to overstretch the open area by the building if we can help it. We also need to get rid of players that are already jumping down to get overly aggressive. And that's where you're going to run into a variety of play styles, especially in quads, is you're going to find players that want to be up in your face, and then you're going to find more methodical players that are farther up in their elevation with cover. So you have to think about how to play both of those. And I want to show you this clip on purpose because we get out of this bad situation by once again playing more patient. We're able to knock 1, we rotate out, stim. Wrapping inside, we saw another guy that we didn't even know was there. If you look at the map, there's still 2 dots up here holding the high ground and stopping us from getting out of this situation. Swinging out the thirst, I'm not going to stay in that position with the other teammate just in case that they push down. The ping goes live from the teammate and I call in napalm. Unfortunately, I'm not able to save my teammates. The motivation to help your teammates is what fuels high kill games from the players that are holding you. Do not let this tactic work. I allowed both of my teammates to die because I had a plan. So I clear the top rock with the napalm, but I hear the drop down onto concrete and I catch a visual of the weapon at the edge of the building. I time it, take it out, I'm able to grab enough cash from the bodies to make an emergency gas buy, hit both of the teammates back, and now they can land over there on their loadout. They're not being held anymore. They didn't lose anything because they have new position, new assets, and they're not being held by this team. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to try and get out of the situation here. I'm going to wait and gas, even without a gas mask, because I have a stim, and I'm going to see if these guys get uncomfortable with the hold. They do, and the moment they turn their backs to me, I line up multiple shots during their retreat. Then I rotate into prison and reunite with my teammates. Now, landing in can be very, very sticky also, because you never know what you're going to get in a box. Prioritize landing away from the hot zone. No matter what gun you get, be aggressive with your first target. If it's anything other than a sniper rifle, push that target, especially those that still have pistols and only 2 plates in. Once you get that first knock, you have all of the information, and that's what players are not looking at. This helps you make decisions because you know where those enemies are at, which also tells you what is the safest place to loot. So I go to the middle building, gonna call out from the teammate that they're in bathroom, and then I hold both sides of that choke point. People are always in the comments of my videos talking about how easy enemy players are, but they're not looking at the fact that my positioning is what gives me the upper hand in these gunfights. If I had landed on this bathroom, I would have been fighting over loot with 2 separate teams, giving audio cues and not having time to react. Versus back here gives me lots of viewing space on the dots that I just saw. So I'm making decisions based on previous information, then continuing to visually clear sectors as I push. I'm looking at high ground before I move out of buildings, makes it so that I get surprised less. And that's where counting is really important, is those 3 dots from before. We just killed 2 in the bathroom, and I am listening for enemy number 3. They push, and it's lights out. You have to work your angles from one direction forward. New teams hear gunfire, and they see unsuppressed gunfire on the map, so they're going to push you. And you need to think about that every time you are firing your weapon. New teams are going to show up. Now, I want to talk about isolation, and this is a very difficult tactic to do because it requires a conscious thought when you are caught off guard. This is what I call your nope moment, and that is when you have 2 sets of eyeballs, you are not going to consistently engage that target without reacting to the second target. And you need to be able to build this mechanic into your gameplay, because once you see 2 eyeballs, you need to be making adjustments to block that second target using your peripheral vision. Once you've isolated it down to 1, don't be over thirsty trying to get the kill. Get ready to rotate around, come around the backside, and then take the same fight from a new angle. Now back over on Rebirth, one of my favorite lines that I use in a lot of videos is the gas line is an extra teammate, and it is the motivator that will sweep players right into your crosshairs. What you don't want to do though is overexpose yourself during that hold. Make sure that you don't lose track of the big picture. When you're pushing one enemy, you don't want to walk out into the open telling everyone where you're at while you're firing your weapon and then not being able to get away. During this collapse, you need to be thinking about the different routes that people will try to rotate during that circle challenge. Audio cues will help you solidify your prediction and then turn it into a reaction. Parachute, then thud on concrete. You're able to thirst that. We're able to thirst that target. I'm sliding by the buy for an emergency pickup of green. And then I'm looking at who is looking at that buyback, because it's an audio and a visual cue that now players are going to try and react to. I catch a glimpse of the sniper rifle. Whenever you're doing an action, you need to be thinking about the cause and effect. If you're visiting at a buy station, someone is going to look at that within 5 seconds after you buy back an enemy. Where can they look at you from? And how can you defend against yourself? I peek the door, wait for the reaction, and then get away in time. Now they fully break me. I change my location, call out the enemy position, and they are aggressively trying to stop me from leaving this building. I call the precision and then get in lane. All the while, I'm focusing the circle pull, which is coming off of the boat and into our advantage, which is excellent. But this is once again where players will become overly aggressive, as they'll overpeak the top and they'll ignore players' ability to provoke your peak. And I am focused solely on holding the routes. It's a 4v4 scenario, and I'm holding all 3 lanes of their passage into zone. They have the steps, this zip, and this staircase. I'm not leaving this spot unless I have to, but I see an opening in time to look for information. Now I get a free knock off this situation, but I'm not staying there. I am provoking their push. Heard the zip, switch to the SMG, take out another enemy. They've got a precision from the buy station. We're going to get off the wall, and I noticed the dot on the far staircase. If you guys don't know this, if you are coughing in the gas, you show up as a red dot. So they added this a while back to give information for gas plays. Make sure you're paying attention to those rotating enemies. I'm going to get inside to get away from that precision. They're holding the left, so I'm immediately going to go look at the right. Gatekeeping is one of my favorite tactics to do. On these circle collapses, you can get a long line of sight on one of these high ground scenarios, and you can really wipe an enemy team that did not anticipate that gas line reduction. What you never want to do is push down too far. You have to respect your buy stations. Blue made a play for pink, but in doing so, that he did not respect the dangers of the buy station. So by trading the 1-for-1 buyback, you essentially did nothing. You lost a player that had their loadout, and then you gained a player that has ground loot. So remember that when you go to buy somebody, is it worth giving up your position and giving up a player on your team? We have zone. If we have held the top here, we would have been able to control this fight earlier in the game, but watch what we do here. We see the bounty rotating towards the buy station. We're able to team fire top of the steps. Able to stop them from thirsting, but my eyes go to the buy station, and yours should too. I'm able to thirst one of them, and the bounty is going deeper into gas. They bought 2. I am waiting for that bounty to die, but now we have a new problem. New fly-ins are going to land high side gas pool over by prison, and we are now at the bottom. I'm going to get the snake up. It's now a 2v2 scenario. This is extremely bad. Whenever I review players' gameplay, I'm always looking at these types of decisions. Is if gas has slid to an extremely bad position away from prison, and we are now stuck in the rotation. So we have to make a play. I hear the buyback. I am intentionally crawling under this rail to keep my head covered from the top of prison. Find the purchaser, fall back to the line. It's still a 2v2. Blue's still pinging a buyback. And the reason he lost that gunfight is because he did not respect the buy station. I'm not going to do the same thing as him and blindly push. I'm going to wait for the opportunity. They're broken. I'm going to make a gas play now for the buy station. But the route that I took gave me the appropriate opportunity to use my stims and cover. It also gave time for Snake to get in zone. So it served as both a distraction and a benefit to get a player back in the game. I'm staying close. Snake leaves me with a ping. I'm going to capitalize that opportunity while they're broken and get them out of the game. I stim immediately after that fight because I am anticipating a challenge from the next enemy. Now it doesn't happen because the teammate that I bought landed back in on the loot. But if I was the guy on the roof, that's exactly what I would do at that point. So building that habit to anticipate the reach out will save you in more fights. They looked, but they did not push. I'm still keeping one eye on that map. A lot of players would take the ramp here and go into cafeteria. And the reason I don't is that the metal from this catwalk has a very distinct sound. It also has quite a distance to get to the window, which would give the player on the roof clear time the thirst. The other option is to take the zip, and those were all audio cues I do not want to give the enemy. So I'm going to play the slow game with no stims left. I'm going to look at that circle, get into gas for a second, open a box, and I find irradiated. I am nearly in the center of the circle, so I'm going to hold my position. Players on the roof, you need to remember this at the end game. I will be waiting for you at the bottom of the building, and I will be listening for when you drop down. Blue's able to provoke him first, but he does the exact same thing I would have done, which is get him out of the game. This is for all of you aggressive players out there. If you want to land at control or mansion, I call this framing or finding the L. And what we're trying to accomplish with this is isolating multiple targets so that we can get ahead of a retaliation and give us time to get our thirsts. Again, long lines of sight. I'm not right up on the fight. Thirsting one, going back to cover, hitting the reload, and then this guy is actually doing the exact same thing. He has a very wide angle on my door, but I don't need to move hardly at all before I get back into cover. I can either shift left or I can move down. I have two separate directions that I can go for close or long range engagements. Let me show you more of what I mean.
Enemy mover.
After we've broken them, we're going to move back up to the same kind of cover, provoking them to push out, consistently hugging cover along the way and getting ready to fight multiple enemies. Breaking one, checking right. Pushing up on the next set of cover. Hear the res, able to drop that guy again. We're able to buy the loadout, but we're going to throw it behind us, and then that red smoke, that audio cue, is going to draw them back this direction. I'm going to hold a wide angle, and as soon as I thirst my first target, look what I got. It's the tiniest L you could possibly imagine, but it's here. I can protect myself horizontally and vertically at this point, no matter which way I need to go. Get down, reload my weapon, hit my plates. He breaks me, I change my position, go for the loadout. Watching the tracer rounds from the right, I am going to move left. And the reason I'm doing that, if they're firing their gun in this direction, it means that they are not focused on this way. As I move up to do that, I see the guy waiting on the far left and catch two more enemies. Now I am close to the cover, but not ideal. During that first knock, I start rolling towards that cover. I am keeping my finger on the right trigger, pulling down with the right stick, and then sidestepping right into cover with that left stick. Very small detail, but this little maneuver, I was able to thirst both of these shots, switch to my secondary, respect the chow, and change my position altogether. Then it's time to rechow. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you're watching this on release, today is the 2nd anniversary of this channel, and I promise you that I will continue to make content designed to make you a better player. Thank you so much for watching. Keep building, keep adapting. Sit rep out.